Okay, we're back online again. It's been a couple of days since I did one of these videos, just an off the cuff, open to say what's going on and how things are and give you guys an update. The other day I did a video that was really just a chance to get back into the momentum of producing content and getting stuff up because I'd been stuck. I set myself to a 14-day storytelling challenge, got halfway through it and dropped the ball on it, and it's been distractions working on other projects, working on some IT projects, getting stuck, and just really dealing with my own sense of perfectionism, a feeling of a lack of productivity and such like that. So it's been an interesting day and I wanted to give an update. But today, I guess to start the day, we came off the back of, I went up to Bangalore last night to the Bangalore Brackets open mic night. It's a bit of a ritual for mine to go up there on a Wednesday evening, hang out with friends, have a good time, have a bit of a drink, and also perform. Now, we're in Australia, we're down here in New South Wales, and so the State of Origin was on, so that clashed with the Bangalore Brackets open mic performances last night, so they moved it from the normal location out into the auditorium, so it was on stage and stuff. So I actually took my guitar up there and performed last night. Had a good time and quite enjoyed it. So let me know if you want me to, because I keep thinking about it, get my phone out and do a bit of recording of the atmosphere and stuff like that. I can't really do a recording of my own performance. I could perhaps bring a microphone and do it. I'm not so inclined, but I do want to get you guys a bit of a sense of what it's like there. Should be a bit more in an intimate setting again next week if I make it up there. And let me know. Also, the same with the trivia. I keep thinking about pulling my phone out and doing a bit of intro to the trivia. It's just an interesting thing. I can't get my head around how to make a video on that when I'm the one up on stage. I could take some videos of other people performing at the open mic night, but the trivia, that's me running that, asking someone in the crowd to film it. I guess I could set up a tripod. I don't know. It's also not my company. I'm not sure where I stand or what I should do. Let me know in the comments what you think I should do. What's your opinion? Should I go and ask the boss, hey, is it all right if I set up the camera and take a video of the event? Should I take some little videos? Should I post it online? Should I post it on Facebook, Instagram? Do you think I'm going outside my own bounds if I take videos of the trivia as a bit of a, what do you call it, PR? Not just for myself, but for the venue. If you're here in the Northern Rivers and you want to come down to Evans Head on a Tuesday and join in the trivia at Illawong Hotel, come along, come and see me. It is a good time. I heard the host is fantastic. And Bangalore Brackets is great if you want to come up and enjoy that. There's some amazing musicians perform at that thing. It's really quite a worthy event. And hey, come and hang out with your friends, have a drink, have a good time, and you get a show at the same time. I spend most of my time outside on the veranda, not really in with the music. I like the social aspect more than I like the music inside. The people I tend to hang out with outside. So that was my event last night, and I explain all that going to the Bangalore Brackets because, you know, I have a bit of a drink and then being responsible, sleep in my car and come home in the morning. And then so I was a little bit hungover today and it was a slow start to my day. And so I slept in, got up, took a while to get going before I finally got my computer out, decided, I'm going to sit down and do some work. I have things to do. I'm way overdue on editing the Code and Character podcast. It's overdue. It should be up and published already. I got most of the way through editing it yesterday. Same, still trying not to be a perfectionist. Like, it's of learning that balance of how much work do I put into editing it versus delaying getting it put up. So I might need to just lower my barrier of the quality of the editing and the amount of effort I put in. Because ultimately, what difference does it make? Like, it's hard thing to say. Like, going, where's the value in doing the editing? Like, if it's making people not watch it, then it's worth doing it. But if it's not, then so I think at this stage, probably better off just to get it up, I reckon. So that's what I want to look at tomorrow, but I didn't get to it today because I have my laptop. Now, apologies, I might go into a bit of technical speak. This is going to be an excellent exercise for me to try and communicate some of my technical expertise with my computer and the troubleshooting I went through in a way that hopefully, if you're a layman and you're not a technical person, can try and understand. I knocked something over. I am not really a Windows user. Some of you who might see me on Facebook see I might get a bit passionate about that sometimes. I'm an open source advocate. I do not like Windows. I probably get overly emotional about it. It's one of those things where I believe what I say and I believe my opinion on. I don't like Windows. I don't like it as a product. I don't think it's a very good product. I don't like the company behind it. I don't like their practices. I think they're despicable. I do believe those, but then me getting quite energetic about it because I want to. On one hand, I want to share it with the world that hey, there are options. You don't need to be stuck with Microsoft, and then everybody tends to assume so you use Mac, and I'm like not Mac either. I'm an open source advocate. If you're not a technical person, open source is code software where you can access the code. You can sort of create this, download the code for the software and build it yourself. Nowadays, you generally don't download the code and build it yourself. Someone's already packaged it for you and you can just install it. My entire computer runs on open source software. It doesn't run on Windows. It doesn't run on Mac. It runs on Linux. I run what they call a distribution of Linux, which is a pre-packaged set of the main core of the operating system and various applications and things that come together to give you a Windows environment. Windows can run applications, can run a browser, all that stuff. It's all pre-packaged together in a preset thing, so you don't need to build all those bits of software up from scratch. That's a great thing about Linux. You can build it up from scratch if you like, but that's way beyond most people. And there are other distributions, things like Pop! OS, Ubuntu, Debian. If you're interested, there are other ways to get into it. Now, I've been using Linux, since the 90s. It influenced a huge amount of my career path because one of my big dreams that I even wrote down long before I got into the natural success stuff that I speak a lot about under William Whitecloud was to work for an open source company. And I eventually actually did that. Around 2011, I started working for a company called Catalyst, which were open source technologists. Now, the Australian branch of that, it wasn't as strong on the open source as they were in New Zealand, but it still was. And then so I became a Drupal developer. Drupal's yet another open source software that you can use for building websites out. It's a tool that you can spin up and it's able to understand what different kinds of content are. It manages user logins, authentication, tagging, keywords, all sorts of other stuff. It's got thousands of contributors. It's a massive community. It's a really high quality enterprise grade that a lot of governments, a lot of enterprises use to run their websites. So open source is not just some little thing. It's quite significant. And I've been running my computer on Linux for ages. However, that's things like Windows, and as much as I don't like it, it's breaking your privacy. It's collecting data on you. They're pushing ads out to you. It's not always easy to use. Linux is often better in a lot of ways, but it's also not as good in some others. One of the big disadvantages I find of Linux is often that you don't get the same support from external companies. For a long time, like you couldn't run Internet Explorer on it because it needs to be like compiled, they call it, right? So Microsoft would have to actually convert Internet Explorer into a format that would run on Linux. A lot of games, up until recently, didn't run on Linux. Linux in the gaming world is actually picking up. It's really interesting. We can go into that on another video. Check out Valve and the Steam Deck. They made a gaming console that runs on Linux, and a whole heap of technology around that actually lets the games think they're running on Windows, but they're not. That's basically how that works. And that's got most of the games. There's a few issues. See, this is what always happens. Few of the games that do cheating detection won't run because the cheating detection sees that it's not really Windows and thinks you're cheating and locks you out. That's generally the main reason most of the games that don't run on Linux now don't run. But so many of them do because Valve, as a company, has done some great stuff. They've put a lot of work in to get games running on Linux so that they can get out of the thumb of Windows. Long story to get to the point, really, was that my computer's given me the shits. I was finding that not always, but most of the time, when I closed the lid on my laptop, the good old computer would just turn off as though I just unplugged it, right? Now, it's obviously my first assumption would be that it's a problem with the power management and the suspend, and it's not suspending or sleeping properly. It's sort of one of the things that I knew I had to take care of, one of those niggling, annoying problems. Like, it only happens when I close the lid on my laptop. I can live with the issue. But then today I was out in the lounge room. I had to go and move to another room because someone was using the lounge room to do some work. And without thinking, I shut the lid, open it up, and now my computer's turned off. I don't really like that because software operating systems, you want to go through a proper shutdown procedure. I had Windows running in a windowed environment. I had Windows running in Linux the other day when I shut the lid. And then so both Linux and Windows had shut down non-cleanly. And I had to look in there getting it fixed. So this afternoon I sat down and started working on how can I troubleshoot this. Now, wow, how good is ChatGPT? Because I don't think I would have solved this myself. Maybe. Of course, I went, even with the help of an AI, analysing all the error logs and stuff to try and diagnose what this issue was. Took me a long time and probably went chased a few red herrings and went down the wrong path. But because obviously thinking it's power management, and the AI took me down the same path. Like, I go, here's the problem. I tell it, here's the problem. Here's my logs. Here's my settings. And it's like, turn this power management off, turn this one, try changing this setting on the power management, test this. Trying to learn to deal with ChatGPT, pardon me, to manage, oh God, it can really annoy the crap out of me sometimes when after a while it starts just telling you to do the same things you've already done. It's like, I've already tried that. So I started a technique of keeping a separate log of everything that we checked and that we'd done and keep pasting that back into the AI going, we've done all this, we've done all this, we've done all this, this is where we're at. And eventually what it comes down to, and this ties back to what I said, some of the problems with Linux are the external support. What I ended up doing, we ended up finding in the log that when I shut the lid, managed to find in the log that it was having trouble configuring the display, meaning the graphics itself. So although when you shut a lid on a computer, it generally triggers a suspend and puts the computer to sleep, whereas mine was turning off. So we thought there was a problem with the suspend. It wasn't. What was really going on was when I shut the lid, it tried to turn the screen off, which made the display want to configure. And then when you turn it back on again, it went to try and configure the display and had an issue, triggered the computer to turn off. That's what was happening. It just was an error in the graphics driver, making the computer just switch off when I shut the lid because it blanked out the screen. Something pretty much like that. I don't know the exact details of it. So in Linux, because this laptop runs an Nvidia brand driver, there's always traditionally been issues with Nvidia drivers on Linux because Nvidia as a company hasn't put the effort in to try and write a decent driver for their graphics card. They make their whiz-bang graphics card. They write a driver so that it runs on Windows. They test it on Windows. They put a lot of effort in there, and then Linux is an afterthought. I'm not up on all the major details. It's just generally NVIDIA is not the best card. If you're going to get a Linux device, they generally recommend getting an AMD card. And I don't know why I didn't when I bought my laptop, but I didn't. So what we ended up doing was installing what they call a Nouveau driver. It's the open source version of the Linux driver. So instead of using the driver that NVIDIA supplies, there's one that the community has written a driver to make the NVIDIA graphics card run on Linux. And I ended up getting the computer to go, look, don't use NVIDIA's one, use the open source version of the driver. Finally, I could shut my computer and it doesn't go to sleep, it doesn't suspend or anything, because sometime today I told it to don't suspend, ignore everything, don't do anything when the lid closes in all the power management. I've still got that stuff turned on and I don't really care. I spend 99% of myself plugged in. If I want to suspend my computer, I'll go in and suspend it manually. I don't care if closing the lid triggers the suspend. I might leave it in that setting where it just doesn't do anything. But now it doesn't turn off. But it did, right? It did. Oh, it was funny because I tested it like 5 times and I'm celebrating, and I took it into another room and I plugged in an external monitor to check that external monitor still worked with that free version of the driver, the free open source version. That still worked. I came back, I sat down, I was just relaxing and getting ready to celebrate, and I closed the lid and I opened it again and my computer had turned off. That's pretty much where we are now. I went through chatted with ChatGPT once more. It suggested that I add one more setting that worked with that particular driver to disable some of the power management stuff. I've turned that on. I did a few tests. I opened the lid. I shut it down over about 10 minutes. It never turned off. It still might. I don't know. And if it does, I'm going to have to be aware of what time it was just before it did it. So when I open the logs, I can determine what because when you look at the logs, you want to know which part of the log to look at. How do I say this? Say I closed the lid and I opened it again, but I wasn't aware of what time it was. Then the logs fill up very, very fast. So you kind of want to just go back 5 minutes ago. And it's really helpful if I know exactly what time it was I shut the lid, because then I know exactly what time stamp in the logs to look at. So hopefully it's good now. That's been most of my day. It's way better. I've closed the lid a number of times. So if it's going to happen, it's only going to happen sometimes. I couldn't use my computer anymore. It was too frustrating. Every time I got up and just absent-minded and closed the lid, my computer would turn off. And it did it more often than not, but it didn't always do it. So it's intermittent, probably an issue with that driver. Hopefully, I've heard scuttlebutt. I've heard rumors that Nvidia is doing some work on their drivers. I believe the story goes that the man that was doing most of the contribution work on the free and open source driver disappeared. He just said, I'm not working on this anymore. About 6 months later, he popped up with a bunch of commits putting more work into that driver, but from a Nvidia email address, and he's working for Nvidia now. And they're also taking off big time at the moment with all the AI chips and stuff that they're building. So I think there was a few other news reports that they brought out some enhancements to their driver. So things might be looking up. They might bring out a better driver. This problem might resolve itself down the track as they fix that. But that's been my day, right? This is perfectionism, because such a hard decision to make. Should I spend the time debugging this issue because I've got that podcast to edit? I've got these videos to make. I've got 2 podcasts to edit now because we've recorded another episode since. We're supposed to get those podcasts out every 2 weeks. We record one every 2 weeks. We just recorded the next one and I haven't got the previous one out yet. So look for that. It's going up on the Code and Character channel in the next couple of days because I'm going to get it edited and get it done. I still want to build my to-do integration with ChatGPT. I want to make these videos. I've got a review of my 30-day challenge video to do. I've got a list of content I want to make. But you look at a day like today, I had a late start and I've spent my entire day troubleshooting my computer. And so that's what this video is for, just kind of get some content out and get something out of it. And having done that, having all that log of what I did, I mean, it's worth writing up a blog post or doing a tutorial video on how I resolved that and maybe telling that story. But I mean, that takes time. That's this whole issue that I'm currently experiencing, quality versus quantity, right? What do I do? How much quality do I put into it? I tend to be such a perfectionist. I want to do a great job of everything. So having solved that NVIDIA thing, I still want to wrap it up and have it working properly. I want a better understanding of why it went wrong. But I think I just got to cut my losses at this point and go, look, it's way better than it was. I'm going to leave it. This review is a bit of an update about that. But see, this is also why I want to make my to-do list so I can add this to the to-do list and get it out of my head and be able to sit there and use the AI to analyze all the different tasks I've got to do and choose which ones to do. I'm pretty keen on that, right? Trying to use an AI to help me figure out what my tasks are, because I'm trying to build this brand, I'm trying to build this channel. Thanks for your support. Thanks for staying with me on this story. Hopefully these get better, right? I'm practicing. Welcome. Thanks for coming with me. Drop your ideas in the comments. If there's something you want to hear about, if there's something about my life you want to know, if there's something about IT, technology, Linux, web development, natural success, it's a bit of a mixed bag, but that's who I am. That's what I can speak to. Drop a comment. Let me know. Thanks for being with me and see you later. Ciao.